back, everybody, to TRIAD of the Force, a Puerto Rican podcast where our culture, stories, and perspectives shape how we see the galaxy far, far away and frame how we explore Star Wars. We are so excited to have you with us tonight as we begin our coverage of MAUL Shadow Lord. We have been looking forward to it so much. Today we will be talking about chapters 1 and 2, The Dark Revenge and Sinister Schemes. But before we get into that, we would love to welcome back to the channel Crystal Kyber, good friend. Oh my God, you look amazing.
Serving looks today for us.
Oh,
Welcome.
Yes, hi, welcome. Thank you for having me.
Oh no, it's
We're
our
so glad
pleasure.
to have you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So happy to have you. Last time we talked was during Skeleton Crew, and
Yes, which was so good as well.
Always love to. I mean, we've been social media friends for a while, and that was like the first time we actually like spoke together for a Star Wars thing as a recording, and good friends to serve second helpings of Star Wars fun. So here we are talking about Darth Maul Shadow Lord. But before we get going. Before we start the Age of Maul, I would be remiss if I didn't ask about this. But you were honored and privileged to have been able to attend the fan screening premiere. I don't know what we're calling it these days of MAUL Shadow Lord over in San Francisco last week. Is that right?
Yes, it was honestly an amazing experience. I had never been into Lucasfilm, let alone a fan event like this before. We watched the first 2 episodes and then we did a panel afterwards. I did rewatch the episodes here at home, and let me tell you guys, I am so spoiled. Watching MAUL with like this big movie theater screen, like the amazing sound system. Like I felt like I didn't even really absorb what the episode was about because I was just like so like stunned, like so consumed with like the beautiful artwork happening in front of me, the energy. Watching it with a crowd was a whole other experience. Getting to hear people laugh and cheer and ooh and ah, it was such a great experience. I think Star Wars in the big screen surrounded by other people is truly how Star Wars needs to be watched. So
agreed.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Like all the images looked pretty spectacular. It seems like everyone brought their A game in terms of their Darth Maul fits, their Darth Maul makeup. And speaking of makeup, I was wondering if we would be blessed by you to give us a Darth Maul look, and we are lucky indeed to have a look. So why don't you describe what you have, what you cooked up for us today to discuss MAUL Shadow Lord for people watching and for people that aren't blessed to be able to see what you got going on.
Right. For our audio listeners, I have a gray smoky eye, a thin, cunty brow, and red on my under eyes that kind of give a little bit of like Sithy vibes. I also am wearing a headpiece with, what are these?
Spikes.
And then I have a Darth shirt on.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. But that was something else that I thought and I think is so cool about MAUL right now. It seems like the whole fandom is just so inspired by this character. Like I'm seeing people across Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, just like putting on MAUL makeup, putting on MAUL outfits, making things, doing their nails, decorating. Like I feel like there's so much love for MAUL. It's been so fascinating seeing the fandom like come alive again.
Why do you think that is? What is it about Maul that, first time we saw him was 1999, got immediately cut in half. We didn't see him for a while until he was, resurrected during the Clone Wars. And now it seems like we can't get enough. So for you, Crystal, what is it about Maul that it connects with so many people?
I think that MAUL is an icon. Like he is an icon. Like he's so recognizable. He is almost as recognizable as Vader, I would say. Like everyone knows what he looks like. Everyone knows he's a bad guy. He is literally the visual embodiment of evil, which is fascinating. And I think that he's just so complex and people just want more of that. People want to know more about him. They want to I don't know why people feel like they want to dress up as him. Maybe because it is so visually striking. What do you guys think?
I mean, I just remember, because 1999, I was perfect age for episode one. You know, I remember getting all the toys and getting all the merch, and my next door neighbor, I don't remember if I had the green lightsaber or she had the double bladed
Dude,
lightsaber.
but
I think
then
she
the
had
double blade
the bladed
lightsaber, just with the double lightsaber, that's
She yeah.
already
She had
icon.
that double bladed lightsaber, and then I had
Oh.
Qui-Gon's green lightsaber.
Wow.
And it was one of those things where we would just reenact episode one on the street and just try to get the choreography from, you know, the final fight with the double blade and everything. So it's one of those things that is a very striking image, right? And he, unlike now, right, where he's the protagonist of his own show and he's talking a lot, even though we'll talk about like the content of everything that he's saying, because I think it's very interesting. In episode one, he doesn't say much, right? It's just, you know, this dark, literally
very
dark
few
and
lines,
mysterious
yeah.
character that just says like, oh, at last we will reveal ourselves to the Jedi, at last we will have revenge.
Yeah.
And it's just like even far more mysterious than Darth Vader in a lot of ways, because
Right.
Darth Vader was hidden behind a mask, but you kind of understood where, you know, where he was coming from, because he had a lot of scenes and a lot of dialogue in episode 4. But Maul, you know, you saw his eyes, but you didn't know what was up with him.
Yeah.
And then, you know, he ignites that double bladed lightsaber, and the rest is history.
Right.
Yep.
What about for you, Nana? Because you were a little older than I when you saw episode 1. So
Yeah,
were
I was,
you
and-
receptive?
I mean, and honestly, I mean, episode 1 is my favorite of the prequel trilogies still to this day. And I think that the Duel of the Fates fight at the end is still probably number 1 favorite Star Wars battle. I mean, or up there at least. I mean, sometimes depending on rewatches, my mind will change. But I mean, that moment really, because, you know, Maul was this kind of character that you can't really see so much at the beginning because he's always wearing that hood. So it's not the same as like Vader with his mask, but it's still like we don't really know everything. And then when that scene begins, when he's facing off against the Jedi and like he removes the hood and we get to see like the head spikes and the amazing character design. And then you see that one blade igniting and then the second one. And it's just like, oh my God. Duel of the Fates shows up and
Who knew
that they
that
could even
lightsabers
do
could
that.
have more than one blade?
Yeah.
Right. Right.
So there was something so amazing. And I feel like a lot of us, you know, when he literally just gets split in half at the end of the film, we're like, wow, what an underused character that had so much potential. So that's why I love that Filoni have done so much to bring this character back to life through the animated series. I feel like it's very well deserved for him to finally get to be like the main character of his own story, because he's always been kind of like relegated to a side character that's kind of pushed around by the circumstances going on around him. And I think a lot of us really lean towards the darker characters, and this show specifically, just from the first episodes that I've watched, is really leaning into that kind of darkness and not hiding from, you know, the cruelty and just kind of the brutality of what was happening. And I think Maul is kind of the perfect character to bring that story forward of what was happening post, you know, Order 66 to, you know, the Jedi that survived, to everybody that's trying to cling to survival, that doesn't necessarily want to buy the lies of the Empire, but are dealing with their own darkness. So I think Maul is a great, you know, vehicle for that. And I'm super excited to see what goes on, you know, with the rest of the series. So
yeah, and it's a good point, because we've had plenty, right, of post episode 3 stories about Jedi in post Order 66. And, you know, it's one thing to see a story about someone from the light that's cast into darkness, you know, and like how they try to find themselves. You know, we got Ahsoka and Cal Kestis as, you know, the main characters that have been explored lately. But, you know, what is it to be cast aside as part of the dark and finding yourself in that moment? And I think it's a really interesting mirror. We've talked in the past before how Darth Maul, formerly Darth Maul, is a mirror to Ahsoka, and this mirror kind of continues, right? We see like Ahsoka's journey towards the light in not just Rebels and in her live action series in Ahsoka, but now we also get to see what that journey was for Maul. And speaking of that journey, you know, I feel like we've all had a journey regarding how we've approached this show. Some people, maybe like me, have been a little more cautiously optimistic about it. Other people have been like excited from the get-go. So, you know, before we get started with like this review of both of these episodes, Crystal, how was it for you when this show was announced way back a year ago in Star Wars Celebration Japan, and now, and you know, and leading up to it, were you excited for the show? Were you, you know, apprehensive about it? Were you cynical? Like, what was your reaction to this announcement, and like, what has your experience been in the lead up to it?
I will say that I have been a little bit cynical as of lately. I know I hate it because I love Star Wars so much, but I haven't really
Yeah.
been loving Star Wars. So when MAUL was announced, I was very, I would say, like you said, cautiously optimistic. Like I love MAUL; he's a great character, but just
Right.
from how I felt about past shows, I was kind of like, we'll see how
Yeah.
it looks, we'll see how it goes. Star Wars
Mhm.
has been doing this thing where it'll be like Obi-Wan Kenobi show, and then Obi-Wan Kenobi is not the character that we follow, or like Boba Fett is not the character that we follow in his own show. So I'm
Yeah.
still a little bit worried about that, but so far we're getting all Maul.
Yeah.
But after the first trailer came out, I was like, oh,
I
they're
mean,
serious. Like this has a lot of potential. So I feel like I really wanted a win for Star Wars, and I think that we're getting a win. So very, very happy so far.
How about you, Nani? How about you? How's your experience been?
yeah, so I was really excited. I mean, when it was announced per se, I wasn't necessarily as excited because, oh, is this, you know, out of all the material in Star Wars that we have, is this you know, necessarily what we want to get? But then I saw that first trailer, and every trailer since then, I was like, oh wow, they're going dark, they're not holding back, they're actually doing this. And the first two episodes were fantastic, in my opinion. I thought it was like such a great reintroduction to the story. And they kind of, I mean, if you haven't been watching, you know, the Clone Wars and Rebels and everything else that, you know, develops the story of Maul better, I think you don't need to if you're a casual viewer and still want to watch this show, because I think they do a pretty good job of kind of explaining, you know, giving you the hints of where we are and what's happening. And you don't necessarily need to know the entire backstory, but it also kind of, I feel, would make people that did not follow Maul's story kind of want to go back and revisit it, because now you get this character
absolutely.
that's like kind of more fully fledged, and just you would want to know, like, how did he get here? Why? Why is he this person now within the greater, you know, galaxy around him? So I don't know. I thought I got really cool vibes from the show at the beginning. I mean, and I kind of really love that. And this is one thing that Disney has been doing pretty well with their promotions, is that, you know, in the trailers, we kind of get most of what's shown to you in the first few episodes. So you are going to be surprised the rest of the season. So I think in these first two episodes, we got most of the cool scenes that we got from the trailer. So most of it is already out of the way. And, but still, even some of the scenes that you saw in the trailers, when they actually happen in the show, they're just like so well placed, and there's such amazing sound editing, and the visuals are crazy. And I can't imagine, Crystal, how it was like to watch it in the big screen. I mean, it had to be like, you know, everything times 1,000. But that first view of Maul, you know, you see the boots, and Duel of the Fates comes up, and he lights up the sabers, and it's just like, okay, Disney, I got you. I see what you're doing. Star Wars, Maul, full on dark, no holds barred. I mean, obviously the voice acting is fantastic as well. But how did you feel when you first saw?
You know,
the episode per se?
it's been quite the journey, because
Yeah.
I was very lucky to be in Japan
Right.
for Star Wars Celebration, and you know, it's like, you know, like Crystal, you're like you were saying, right? When you're in an environment full of Star Wars fans that are positive and joyful and happy,
It's contagious.
it's contagious, and you know, that joy is just, you know, it's infectious, right? So when like all these announcements are made, you get caught up in the hype of everything. So being in the room where it happened and it was announced, and like seeing everyone lose their collective minds over this show, it was, you know, it was contagious, right? And you're also like, I mean, and let's be honest, Darth Maul's cool, he's badass, and that trailer that they cut for the convention, you know, was showing all the goodness that this show has, you know, delivered so far. And it's just like amazing artwork, great sound design, and pretty elevated fight choreography.
Oh
So
yeah. Hmm.
because you can't have a Darth Maul show without great Darth Maul fights. And I keep
Right.
calling him
Yep.
Darth, even though he's formerly Darth, so apologies. But you know, so the hype was great at the moment, although post collective hive mind hype, I've part of me has also been like, is Lucasfilm now kind of just like, Acolyte maybe didn't do as well. Some of the other diverse shows like maybe didn't also do well. Like, is Lucasfilm not going back into safe territory and giving us familiar things? Look at this
Right.
guy, he's cool, let's do that again. Look at this other dude, he's also cool. Let's
Mhm.
just keep feeding you the things you like. So like there was kind of concern in my mind about that, because I'm
Yeah.
just like, not that I don't like comfort food, I love comfort food,
Of
but I also
course.
like when Lucasfilm is pushing boundaries. I
Mhm.
love the Acolyte unapologetically. So I kind of want more stories like that. So I've been a little, I wouldn't say I was drinking haterade, but I was kind of
Right.
like, okay, like, who is this
Right.
show
Yeah.
made for? Who is
Maybe
this
just
show
Yeah.
made for?
sipping. Maybe
Sipping,
sipping.
it's fine to take a sip every once in a
Right.
Yeah.
while. You
Yeah.
just can't get drunk of it.
Right.
But I'm happy, to be proven wrong, right? You want to be proven wrong and see that things
Yeah.
are great. And so far, these first two episodes really delivered. And full disclosure for everyone that's listening, I have been very lucky to have received screeners to Maul Shadow Lord, so I've been able to watch the first 8 episodes. Nani has not, Crystal has not. So I will do my best here
To not spoil.
to not spoil anything, not wink, not do anything. And when it's time for some responsible speculation, I will shut up about things I know about. So
I'm gonna be studying your face, so I hope you have a good poker face.
we'll see. We'll find out. We'll
I-
find out.
yeah. I
We'll
doubt
find
it.
out. That's why I'm just drinking water and nothing else, because otherwise I might get a little loosey goosey here. But with that being said, let's get into the show proper. Let's start with the first 2 episodes of Maul Shadow Lord and just kind of start with our initial reactions. Crystal, you're our guest, so we'll start with you. What do you think about? You can talk about each episode individually or both collectively, but what were your thoughts of the premiere of Maul Shadow
I'll
Lord?
I'll talk about it as a collective thing, and then maybe we can get into details like as they come
Oh yeah.
up. But
Awesome. Mhm.
visually,
Oh my God.
auditorially, storytelling wise, like we're hitting all of those.
Oh yeah.
I love this like painterly animated style that they're going for. It seems like they're really taking what made like the best of Clone Wars and Bad Batch and just like ramping it up to like
Oh yeah.
10. I just kept looking at the background. I love the color choices that they're using. I love the blues, the greens, the reds really stand out.
Mhm.
I'm also really getting this like futuristic noir
Mhm,
Oh
feeling
yeah.
mhm,
in
mhm.
this,
Yep.
and I love that. I'm like such a sucker for a futuristic sci-fi noir.
Mhm.
Um,
Yes.
the music is
Oh yeah.
so like scary.
The
I know.
You
the
know?
Kiners don't miss. Kiners are
They're
Oh
always
yeah.
great.
killing it. Like
Oh yeah.
even watching it on like my really bad TV here at home, I still was like, "Oh my God, this sound design is like some of the best I've heard." They've done such a great job at like giving us new Star Wars sounds, but
Mhm,
still having it feel Star Wars.
mhm.
Um,
Yes.
I wrote notes.
Oh yes, please. We
Go
love
Um,
ahead.
notes. We love notes. I got notes. We got notes for days. So
I also really loved like the new characters and the
Mhm,
characterization. I feel like you can really tell they put so much thought into this show between the different characters and how they interact. And something that I think that Maul is doing really well is the idea of like showing us and not telling. Like there's
mhm.
so
Mhm.
much between just character
Yeah.
interactions that
Yeah.
like I'm like, "Oh, you guys are like really not talking to us like we're dumb."
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah. Which is
you
very much
know?
appreciated.
Very
Yes.
appreciated. So, I was watching it with my partner, who is, I would say, a casual fan.
A
So,
normie, a normie. And we
Yeah.
say that
um,
with love.
right, right. And
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting because I had felt like there was just a little bit too much exposition
Mhm,
because I know what's happening. I know that this
Yeah, we know
happens
the
after
story.
Revenge of
Yeah.
the Sith.
Mhm.
Right. But he was like, so when is this? Like,
Yeah. Where
you
are we in
know?
time?
Right.
Yeah.
He's like,
Yeah.
what did Rebels happen already? Like he's so confused, which I
Yeah.
thought was hilarious because I felt like they're over explaining and he
Mhm.
felt like they were under explaining. So I thought that that was interesting that we both were kind of having this different experience.
Mhm. Mhm.
He also didn't know that Devon and Master, is it Eco?
Master Daki. I
Yeah,
just
Master Daki.
Master Daki.
Mhm.
Let's keep it simple.
He didn't know that they were Jedi until he jumped off the bridge in the second
Oh,
episode.
interesting.
And he
Interesting.
was like,
Yeah.
well, that's a
Oh,
Jedi?
Jedi.
And I'm like, how did you not know that was a
Yeah.
Jedi?
That's cool though. They have
It
a
was
It
different
is
cool.
cool.
experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it is cool that like there are things being revealed to the audience. Like,
Mhm.
you know, for us as super fans, it's
Yeah.
we know what's
Oh, yeah.
happening.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But yeah, great so far. I'm really loving this show.
Nani, how about you?
Yeah, so just to like tag along with what Crystal was saying, it's so true. It's what I was saying before. I think one of the great things about the show is that it can be appreciated by casual fans, and they would be surprised about what has happened to this character, and us that are, we know the story, but we don't know this part of his story. So I think that's something really cool that they're doing so far. Again, optimistic the first two episodes. I didn't watch the full screener, so I don't know how they're going to develop the story, but so far, super excited. And like you said, I love this like noir, futuristic,
Mhm.
gangster slash detective
Mhm.
story, which is
Mhm.
really
Mhm.
cool. I love the detective, who's I love that he's Brazilian. As
Mhm.
soon as he
Yeah.
started speaking, I was like, his Latin, yes,
Yes.
representation. Thank you so much. I love that, and in so many of these stories that like the droid characters have become super important in it. Like
Mhm.
I love Two Boots, and like you were saying about not necessarily telling us things, that scene when they're drinking the coffee, it's like, oh,
Right.
how's the coffee? It's like, I can't drink it. I
Yeah,
just do
yeah.
it to share with you, the
Yeah.
moment.
Right.
um the spy bot gives me like
Spybot,
Cad
David Collins.
Bane
Yep.
vibes completely.
Yes.
So I love that, and there's just like such great interaction. I don't remember what the name of the Mandalorian that's with him.
Right.
Rootcast. Yeah.
Yeah, who's gives me also like, she looks and sounds like a witch from Dathomir, but is a
And she's
Mandalorian.
played by
So
Vanessa Marshall, I think, right? For
Mm-hmm.
our mother Hera is playing a villain. It almost doesn't even make sense, but she's crushing it.
She
I
is
know,
killing
and
it.
it's so amazing. And the character designs on everybody, and we don't know everybody's motivations yet, obviously, but we get a hint of it, and how the circumstances have changed the stories of all these people. And I don't know, I'm really, really enjoying it. And the Jedi, it's, are we saying Mustard Daki?
I mean,
Because the
Yeah.
you can say
Yes.
his full name if you
yeah,
want, but
You
I'm
can
yeah.
say the
keeping it
dinosaur.
simple.
The
Yeah,
dinosaur
Oh yeah,
Jedi.
who's look? I was not expecting to be voiced by like Dennis Haysbert, who's like this big man and this like
Allstate
the
or the
character,
president of the United States if you
or the
watch
president of the
24.
United States in 24. And he's also given me Splinter vibes,
Yes. Yes. I
which was
didn't
so
see that, but I see it now. Yeah.
yeah, which was so fantastic. And there was something really cool because I know we talked about before that we kind of thought the planet was gonna be Coruscant, but then it isn't,
Janix.
and it's kind of this Gotham version of Coruscant, which not to say that Coruscant didn't have its own underbelly, obviously, but this one's like a little bit more. You get those steam coming out of the vents and the whole thing. It's like you kind of expect Batman to show up at some point, like in a corner somewhere. It's like I fight with Maul, So, so I think that just everything that they've shown us so far is so exciting. I mean, all the car scenes were amazing. I mean, there's so much Star Wars action happening, and so much kind of movement to see how everybody's kind of trying to find their place in this post everything era. And I love how there's mentions of ISB, so we know that ISB started up like really early on. And I don't know, I'm just like, I've been really impressed with everything I saw. I wasn't expecting to get like so attached to their newer characters so far, which is one of the things that I love the most about it. So.
Yeah, I think a lot of the praise that I would have for the show, I mean, obviously Sam Witwer's performance of Maul here is something
On another
stunning. I mean,
level. Yeah,
he's always been great. He's always been great,
Yeah.
but he brings so much more nuance to like how he's
Gravitas.
performing his voice acting for this show, that you're getting such a somehow, right, a completely different kind of Maul than we have received before. So, you know, praise to Sam Witwer, because he's definitely crushing it. But a concern that I had right coming into the show is, you know, how, because, you know, there are some villains, and one of my favorite villains is Thrawn, but when you make a story centered around that villain, sometimes what's cool about them kind of dissolves away. And you know, the Thrawn Ascendancy trilogy is very heavily centered around Thrawn as the main character, and you know, I think I really enjoy it, but sometimes you get diminishing returns a little bit, because what's cool about that character sometimes is the mystery and how they interact with other characters in a supporting capacity. So we've only ever seen Maul, right, be a villain in a supporting capacity. You know, in Clone Wars, he's never like the main player. He's always like a subplot to a lot of the things that's going on. Same with Rebels. Needless to say, you know, he's barely in episode 1. So it's like, how was a show that was going to center around him really work? Would he be less compelling? And I think that adding, you know, Devon and Brander Lawson as, you know, co-protagonists to the show was such a great move, because it helps balance the show, you know, because Maul is still the main character, but he's not overpowering the show in a way that, you know, you're overwhelmed with too much Maul. He's there enough to cement himself as that main character and be interesting, but then you have these other really compelling characters, because I think Devon and Brander are really, really cool, because, you know, to just be attached to these characters in just 2 episodes, it's kind of a feat to the storytelling from the writers over at Lucasfilm. So they're great, because they bring these different aspects of Maul's character, right? That duality that he has. It's like his force wielding side, which is Devon, right? That he has a mirror to look at, because, you know, in many ways he sees her as a, you know, a replacement for Ahsoka, or proto Ezra, depending on what direction you're looking at it.
Right.
And then Brander Lawson is that crime side. You know, he's in the underworld. He's a gangster. He's trying to bring all these unlawful crime syndicates together, and Brander's just like that foil to that side of him. So it's like these two sides of Maul that coexist, and they coexist in the light. So I kind of like that triangle, right, that all 3 characters are doing to help balance each other out, and how they kind of keep flipping around in their interactions with each other.
Right.
Which, you know, like I'm not gonna keep going too far into that. But
no, keep going, please.
maybe when we stop recording.
Keep going, go on.
But that dynamic is really, really, really cool in terms of like making the show really work. And you know, you guys have mentioned it, but just the neo-noir aspects of the show is just so great, you know. And Star Wars always works best when you're taking something familiar and you make it just a little bit weird. And they've hit the nail on the head, you know. A lot of people, like now you mentioned that people comparing Janix with Gotham. Like I also thought about Mega City 1 from Dread, but also was thinking of like Blade Runner, you know. It's all these and Attack of the Clones, you know. Attack of the Clones is also kind of a neo-noir. It's a little more goofy because it's Uncle George directing it, but it's still kind of a noir. It's a mystery. Obi-Wan's trying to solve a mystery in this one, so it counts. And Janix has a lot of those pink and blue neons from Attack of the Clones. So you know, it's a perfect mix, right, between kind of all these references and you know, Batman. Like everyone said, there's so much Batman in the show, not just from the heist, but then Master Taki when he flips over the car. I just think of the Dark Knight when they flip over the truck. Everyone disappears like Batman, you know. It's I'm
Where'd he go?
like Detective Gordon talking to Batman. All of a sudden he turns around, Batman's not there. Same thing with with Brander Lawson. He turns around, Master Taki or Maul aren't there. So all those things really help make something that's familiar, you know, the Star Wars mythos and Maul as a character, just feel new. and refreshing. So
Plus, in kind of like the prison escape scene, you get a lot of like alien vibes as well, like the blinking lights and all the red and kind of like just body parts. I mean, it's droid body parts, but it still counts, like scattered
genius,
around,
though.
and it's so good. It was so good. I was getting all the references, and they're just not like completely in your face. I mean, they're good enough that it doesn't distract from the rest of the story, but you can still appreciate it as it's happening. It's like, oh my God, this is so fun. Like, I watched it when it first came out, on Monday, and then I rewatched it now before recording this, and I was still had like a huge smile on my face as I was watching it. Like, this is just fun. It's great Star Wars, which is what we always want. So
it's fun, but it's mature, right? Oh, sorry, Chris.
Yes, no, it's definitely mature. I did want to say something that you touched upon earlier about like this show revolving around a character who has previously been like kind of mysterious and not really being a main character. When I was at the premiere, Dave Filoni was talking about how they had to be very careful with MAUL because something that makes him really cool is that like we don't really know like what's going on with him. Like, he's so mysterious. He doesn't talk a lot in the first movie. And so he was talking a lot about like, well, how do we flesh out a character without giving too much away? So I thought that was like really interesting that you guys were kind of saying the same thing about that.
I wish we had been able to hear Dave.
I know. I wish that you guys were there for real.
Hey, maybe on the next one. We're crossing our fingers to maybe if something happens soon in LA, we'll see.
Yeah, right. In about a month.
In about a month, maybe. Who knows?
Who knows?
But let's talk about maturity, because I think that's one of the things that a lot of people have been talking about, and one of the things that the trailers were promising in many ways was that this show was not going to be, your normal Star Wars show. That is, just because it's animated doesn't mean that it has to have a certain tone. And I think for the most part it's delivered. I mean, I still think I wouldn't call it kid friendly necessarily, but kids can watch it. But I don't want to older kids, and I don't want to call it a post Andor show, because that, I don't want to make it seem like I'm seeing everything through an Andor lens, but it definitely feels like a show that everyone that's doing it was doing it for a generation that grew up watching Clone Wars and matured with that show, and now it's a couple of years removed from when the show ended, and they're making it for that age group that grew up with it, but now are are adults, have jobs, have kids, or whatever. So it balances itself well, right, between being accessible to like maybe a younger demographic, but it's also takes itself seriously enough where it's someone who might be cynical about animation and being like, oh, Star Wars animation is for kids, can watch this and be like, oh, this is as good as Andor, and I would put it up there because like the writing is that serious. But what do you think, Crystal, about like how this show takes itself seriously in a different way? Not to say that the other Star Wars shows don't, but there's a different context to this one.
Yeah, I think that you're really nailing it there. It does take itself seriously. I think also when you pitch a show about a dark, evil character, I feel like it kind of has to have like a more mature feel to it. And the show feels very gritty, and not just in the way that it's more mature, but just in the like violence, I guess you could say. Like, even though it is droid parts on the ground, I feel like they're being really creative with like showing around the violence. When he like cuts the pike in half, like you don't see it, and it's very Star Wars, and we don't really see a lot of violence even in the movies. It's very implied. There's no blood. I think the most like crazy thing that I saw was when Maul cut off like Vizsla's head, like on Mandalore in the Clone Wars.
Oh, right.
Yeah, when that happened, I was like, this is a kid show.
Yeah.
I was like, if there was blood here, this would be a different rating. I feel like this show has that same kind of violent tendencies. I hate saying violent because it's not really violent, but it's action, and it's not shying away from it, but it is being very creative with how it tells us what's happening.
It's the balancing act, right? Because even though Maul is the protagonist, it doesn't mean that he stops being a bad guy. You
Right.
know, he's
Mm-hmm.
definitely the anti-hero because this is his point of view, but he's still a bad guy that does bad things. And it's just, I mean, he stabs a guy in the face at one point,
Right.
which is just like,
Yeah.
they cut out immediately before
But
the
you know
stab
that's where
happens,
the sword was going.
but you know that's what has happened.
Yeah, right.
But Nani, how have you received the tonal difference that this show has, right? Especially when compared to the Bad Batch, which is its immediate predecessor. Which
Yeah.
Bad Batch is also a show that talks about serious subjects and talks about the rise of fascism and the darkness
Right.
inherent in that system. But it's more lighthearted, right? So
Yeah.
how do you contrast it, and does it is it working for you so far?
Well, I mean, it's two different tones, and not to say that Bad Batch doesn't have its dark moments because it definitely does. But I mean, I think the dynamic is just different there because it's kind of more of um the Bad Batch themselves kind of finding themselves as brothers, like, clones to begin with. They were really young, because even though they look older, they kind of, they rapidly age them. So they're all kind of like finding their way and and meeting their little sister. And then you have this younger character who looks younger, but is actually older in age. So it's kind of this weird juxtaposition of like a found family kind of dynamic that is very different to a Maul as a main character,
Hmm.
which, I mean, if you don't want to lose the coolness factor or the serious factor of a character like Maul, you need it to be this way. Because otherwise, it's just like, oh, everything that we've seen before, you're kind of retconning it, and then this character is not the character that we grew up with. So I think it's just a different vehicle, and I think they're doing it really well. I was really excited when I saw that this is the tone they were going for in the trailer, and I was a little bit scared that it was just for the trailer to get like people
Hmm.
hooked into it, and then they
Yeah.
weren't necessarily going to
Right.
deliver.
Exactly.
But so far, they really, really have, and I think it's really cool because it's a character that it's not just that this is kind of the world, but it's how he sees the world as well.
Mhm.
Like he's been constantly betrayed by everyone that he's tried to either serve or everything he's tried to build. Cause the syndicates and Mandalore, like it was kind of him separating himself from um the Emperor. And I love that he still refers to him as Darth Sidious. It's like I'm not even giving him the title of Emperor.
Yep,
He is
yep.
Darth Sidious, my former master who totally destroyed me. And it's been a rough go for Maul. So I think that for his story to be compelling, it does have to be this tone, and I think they're pulling it off really well. And I'm really happy with it. So
Yeah, I mean, and to go back a little bit towards the violence and mixing it with all the gangster mob films, and like when he
oh
has
yeah.
the in that first episode, right, when they steal the is it what's the other gangsters, Demas and Darius,
Yeah.
whatever, I forget it,
Yeah.
his name, something like that. But then he orchestrates that meeting with the families, right, which is very Godfather in of
Godfather.
itself.
Hmm.
But then when
Yeah.
they serve the platter and it's the droid's decapitated head, I was just
Yeah.
like, oh man,
The
like
horse.
that's exactly the horse. I was just thinking of the horse scene from the first
Yeah.
Godfather movie. I'm just like, that's such a clever way to like do something that's
Yeah.
violent and brutal, but in a kind of family friendly way because it's a droid,
Right.
and if we decapitate a droid,
Yeah,
it's
right.
totally fine, totally fine.
Yeah.
Right.
But we've been talking about Maul, and rightfully so, because the show is called Maul Shadow Lord. But it's not just Maul's show. We also have to talk about the new girl on the block, and that's Devon, Jedi Padawan Devon Izara, who has the whole internet talking, including us. We've been talking weeks ago when we were discussing the trailers about all the theories regarding Darth Talon and everything,
Yeah.
and now here we are. The show has released or is releasing, and we get to see that journey of Devon. Crystal, what do you think of? I don't want to go into Darth Talon brain rot, but what do you think of Devon as a character? And do you see any truth to all this speculative nonsense of her becoming Darth Talon?
I am Team Talon. I would like to see it. Maybe it's
Good.
not the Talon that we have in Legends, but maybe
Mhm.
it's like some iteration or
Yeah.
maybe, repackaged Talon. I would love that. I feel like, we haven't seen much of Devon so far, so I'm really interested to see more of her as a person. But I would love to see her go to the dark side because, like, this is Maul's second attempt at getting a Padawan, but he does try to get Ezra, which doesn't work because Ezra is a little too stubborn, and he has like a good support system, and he tries to get Ahsoka, who is just too good, too in the light. And I think Maul becomes like this huge crime lord because he's very persuasive and he gets what he wants. And I want to see Maul get what he wants. Like, give him an apprentice. Like,
Get it done.
get it. Yeah. Like, I would love to see that. Like, I feel like we get teased so much of like a Jedi or a light side user going to the dark side. And we got that in the Acolyte and it stopped, which is such a bummer.
Right.
So I would love to see that be fleshed out. It'd be so different for Star Wars. So I am very pro, like, get Maul an apprentice. And maybe that's why he like wants Ezra so bad, is because he knows.
Yeah, that
we'll
there's
talk
that
about
he
that, 'cause
can do it. Yeah.
I have some spicy, irresponsible speculation that I will participate in because it's outside of everything. But
Okay.
Nani, give us your Devon takes.
Yeah, so I wasn't putting any credence into kind of the theories, prior to watching the first two episodes. And again, like you said, we haven't gotten too much of her yet as a character, but I can totally see it. I mean, she has an angry resting bitch face most of the time, which I am a huge fan of. Don't get me wrong. I think she's amazing. And I think she has a right to feel the way that she feels. I mean, they're supposed to be, they were Jedis at some point. At this point, they're starving. And I mean, this whole sequence happens because she's just trying to get some food because, I mean, not even begging is working for them at this point, which is, I mean, it's kind of ridiculous that she got caught for trying to steal like 5 pieces of fruit. I mean, you're a Jedi. Can't you be a little bit stealthier than what you are? But it's fine.
She's starving. Okay.
She's starving, yeah.
But I mean, she's, especially in the world where we are right now in a galaxy far, far away, I think everything that Maul is saying to her, I mean, he's not wrong in what he's saying to her. I mean, the world is not completely black and white. Jedi are not all good. Sith are not all bad. He says it a couple of times, like, you have been indoctrinated, which I feel is something that me and Goose have talked a lot about the Jedi, that it's like a full indoctrination of children. So, the Jedi are not necessarily the good guys either. Right. So I really like that he's not really pushing her to do it. He's just kind of letting her get there on her own, and like, you're a prisoner. Well, if that's your point of view, which seems like a very Obi-Wan thing to say, by the way. So when Maul said it, I was like, really? You're quoting Obi-Wan?
The reversals are really fun. Yeah.
So I think it's really cool. That's okay. If you see yourself as a prisoner, that's fine. And when she's like saying, release me, it's like, leave. Like, you have the power to free yourself. Do it, which is what I really liked. Obviously, spoiler, end of the second episode, that she actually finds that power and releases herself from her prison. And I think it's gonna be really compelling. Like, I think she's already kind of starting to buy into what Maul is telling her, even though obviously she's a young, stubborn woman, so good for her. But I think throughout the entirety of the show, she will probably begin to see a lot more of what Maul is saying. And like I said, what he's saying isn't necessarily wrong. So I could totally see it. And I would not be against her being Darth Talon eventually. I think it'd be really cool. I love female villains. I don't think we have enough of them. Right. And a compelling one, especially. I'm all for it. What about you, Goose? You said you had irresponsible.
For me, no. We'll leave the irresponsible for the end. I was taking notes about some other things that you guys were saying that I thought was really, really interesting. But I I mean, this whole conversation, right, just sparks how interesting Devon is as a character in just 2 episodes, right? Because it's not just uh, what she does as a character on her own; it's what it says about Maul's character also in response to everything that's going on. Because when he's talking to her and he's talking to mentioning what you said, Nani, about being indoctrinated, so was he, right? So
Of course,
Right.
yeah.
in a lot of ways, like he's maybe talking through a porthole, but he's looking in a mirror as he's saying
Right.
all those things. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it's interesting how she starts in the first episode taking to being taken in a prison of the criminal justice system, right? Because
Right.
she
Right.
like was hungry, was trying to feed herself, which in of itself, you know, the inherent issues of
Right.
the system, right? And especially in this world that we're living in, it's just like really like
Right.
someone that's hungry and needs to eat is immediately taken to prison, which I thought was interesting. That then the droids are the ones that don't have any nuance or capacity to
Yeah.
understand, you know, someone that's hungry. Is it really stealing if you're hungry? You know,
Right.
type of
Right.
thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Um,
I'm surprised they did that in the Star Wars. I
hey,
was like, oh
Yeah.
wow.
Star Wars
Yeah.
woke. You know, whoever says Star Wars not
Right.
woke is blind. I don't know.
Right. I know.
So that commentary right there about just how the system inherently like oppresses you if you're not, you know, if you're not wealthy
Right.
is
Yeah.
in of itself very telling, especially from a character that comes from wealth, right? Because the Jedi, you know, they may be monks, but they come from opulence, right?
Yeah.
They live
Opulence.
in a palace in the
The
center of the
temples.
galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
So to all of a sudden be in that position to then kind of go and be, you know, the lowest of the low in society because you can't, you know, even
Yeah.
use the force
You're
because then
homeless.
you'll
You're
be hunted.
fugitives. You're. Mm-hmm.
So it's that's interesting, that reckoning, right, that she has to have about what does it mean to survive but also be a Jedi in a
Right.
world that
Yeah.
doesn't, you know, doesn't allow you to be either
Yeah.
thing.
Is
And then
survival enough? Is survival living?
and
Right.
exactly. And
Yeah.
switching from being in a prison that she can't escape from the system to kind of being liberated by who she thinks is her enemy and being placed in another prison. But the minute he puts her in that prison and he said like, oh, you can free your, like you think you're a prisoner, that's your
Mm-hmm.
perspective, or however he said it. The minute he said that, I'm like, oh, she can obviously free herself. She just has to
Yeah.
see it. And I thought
Right.
that whole sequence to me was just so perfect. It was such perfect storytelling for this episode to set her up as a character, because you know it's just the visual of it too. They're seeing
Yeah.
through a porthole as they're talking to each other, so through a porthole you can only see one way and a very narrow view of things. And they're
Mm-hmm.
talking about their mutual indoctrination, so they're only seeing that narrow dogmatic view, you know, one of the Sith, one of the Jedi. But you know, Maul is offering her a little bit more. He's offering her truth in a lot of ways. So it just reminded me of, you know, the snake in the Garden of Eden. It's like the snake never lied, you know, to Eve. Like was promised them the fruit from the tree of truth, of good and evil. And once they ate from, what happened when they ate from
Mm-hmm.
that, they were able to tell right from wrong and good and evil. So, and it was also a thing that Kymir does in The Acolyte. He also
Right.
only offers truth, just like Kylo only offers truth. So it's like this nuance of like, is villainy really tied with deceit, or is deceit kind of muddied through the truth? One of those interesting things. But Plato's cave too. She only can see
Right.
the Maul's shadow, but then
Yeah.
at the end she discovers the truth by maybe listening to Maul and kind of seeing a little bit of that darkness helps liberate her, and she starts to see a wider perspective of the world that she's in, as after she had, you know, descended into hell with Maul. So, and that episode ends right there, and I was like, that's
Oh yeah.
genius, almost perfect.
Right.
Like no,
Yeah.
almost no notes. So
Right.
I definitely love Devon. Uh, I don't know, any additional thoughts on Devon before we move to our boy Brander Lawson.
Yeah. Well, just going back to like our topic of like maturity, besides like the action and like the grittiness of it, just like having this concept of Devon having to get her out of a situation that she kind of like not put herself in, but like the metaphor of it, that's like the maturity of it. This show is like asking us to keep up with it. It's not telling us like, oh, look at this is where Devon is and this is how she's feeling. Like we kind of, the audience need to think on that. And I think that is so great for like us experiencing MAUL in the same way that Devon is. We're having to piece it together. So very interesting storytelling.
Yeah, excellent. We love Devon, and we definitely looking forward to seeing her journey
To the dark side.
to maybe
Yes.
turn into maybe not
I'm all
Darth
in.
since Maul isn't a Darth, but
Right.
some version of something like that. But Natalie, tell us a little bit about Brander Lawson. You were talking about your hype over a Portuguese actor, Latino coming in to keep representing our community. So tell us your thought of Brander as a character, and how much we love him, because we have to love him. He's in the pantheon of space puppies now.
Of course, yeah. He right away from the moment he walks in and he's just like brushing his hair aside. It's like, oh, yep, we got another
The
space
hair
puppy,
animation has come a long way.
The cheekbones, like
oh yeah, and the voice acting is great as well. But I mean, I love this character because compared to Maul, who's like this grandiose, just like striking, crazy persona. Who, by the way, I mean, the colors pop so much, like even more than they ever had. So amazing. I mean, Brander Lawson's more kind of like a very good looking but everyday man. He clearly is probably like divorced with custody of his kid, and it's like a contentious relationship. He seems like a workaholic, like he doesn't really have all that much time for his family, but he seems like very committed. His best friend is a droid, who's a colleague from work, which is what happens when you work all the time. Your friends are your colleagues. So I think he's a very relatable character, and it's very cool that he hasn't bought into kind of like the authority of the Empire, because from the beginning they're like, these are the protocols, you have to get the Empire involved. It's like, no, I'm not doing that. That's gonna like lock down the planet. I'm not okay with it. And he doesn't permit like his superior as well to kind of like grind him down from doing what he thinks is the best decision. I mean, and he clearly doesn't see everything in black and white, because when he sees like Devio, I think it's the other gangster, Vario. When he sees Vario, and obviously Vario is kind of like super surprised that it's like, oh, it's the first time I'm happy to see you. And it's like, well, do things every day. And, he could have been abusive police guy when he caught like one of the greatest gangsters, and, he wasn't. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of really promising things to see from this character. And clearly he has kind of, shady contacts as well within the planet. So I love that it's a good guy that is not just completely obsessed with like good versus evil and is kind of somewhere in the middle. So I'm really excited to see how they develop this character.
Yeah. Crystal, what about you? What do you think about Brander Lawson?
Right. Now that you say that, I'm like wondering how far is he going to be willing to go to get Maul, So that actually is such an interesting point. I really like this character. Who knows? I think I know someone who knows.
I think I know someone who knows.
I think it's Dave Filoni. Dave Filoni knows.
I really like this character. I see him so much as a counterpart to Maul. I see like his relationship with his son being kind of like this foil to like how Maul is going to be dealing with Devon. I think it's so interesting that like we have Maul trying to find an apprentice, and while that's not him necessarily being a father figure, it is him taking a younger person with him. And then we have our other main character who has a very tumultuous, or not tumultuous, but not a great relationship. So it seems like he doesn't seem like he's there for his son. That point that you brought up earlier about him having coffee with the droid, and the droid was like, I actually don't drink this coffee, I just share the moment with you. I think that it's such a funny moment, but I also think it shows like how bad of a friend he is. Like this droid has been having coffee with him for how long?
Yeah.
And he hasn't noticed that he hasn't been drinking the
That he
coffee.
can't even drink it.
You know? And so I think it's so interesting to see like where these two fathers are going to be
Are gonna
in
end
the
up.
show.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I like
And
that.
I loved like their little meeting also, like how Brander saw Maul's projection and then how
Oh, that was
Maul saw
great.
his projection, and then they saw each other. And I was like, look at this little
Ooh.
meet cute.
Yeah.
Yeah, love
Interesting.
it. Love their
It's
parallels.
so good.
Yeah.
I like that. And he's, I mean, what I agree with everything that everyone said, but one of the things that I think that is so endearing about the character immediately is how he's just the cliche noir detective. You know,
Oh, yeah.
he's overworked, too many cases, the bad guys keep getting away. And then to add to all that, one of the best touches in this show. And I don't know if anyone caught it, but it's like a music cue that the Kiners put in some of his scenes when he's like walking away from something, specifically after he walks away from Saul's like the informant femme fatale that he goes to meet intimately or maybe not intimately.
Who knows? There was some tension there.
As he's
Yeah, they
walking,
went
and
to dinner.
she is free
Oh,
for
yeah.
dinner. She's whatever that means in the galaxy far, far away.
Oh,
As he's walking away, it's just like you just hear like a saxophone just play as a solitary instrument amongst everything. I guess like that is the most noir thing ever.
Detective thing.
The only thing that was missing was a voiceover of him being like, April 7th.
Today.
Yeah.
Today. Bad guys got away again. Had to meet Saul. It's a tough day in the city.
Right.
All he was missing was a
Today,
cigarette.
a comedian
also,
died
but, you
in
know,
New York.
Exactly that. He can't have cigarettes because this is a children's show in Star Wars,
Yeah.
but that was all that was missing.
He
I mean,
totally would. Yeah.
He's got the angry
Yeah.
police captain over him, the kind of quirky co-worker, bad relationship with his son. It's all the ingredients are there to just, you know, be that cliche kind of character in a detective movie that, you know, then is, you know, just elevated by being in a Star Wars environment. So I'm looking forward to seeing, because obviously I don't know, but I'm looking
Of
forward
course.
to seeing how his
I looked
character
that up.
develops as, you know, as that tension with Two Boots on whether to call the Empire or not, you know, continues, because it kind of feels like Andor, right? With like Preox Morlana, where it's just like they're like they have their own security force on Janix, so they don't want the Empire to come in and mess things up, because we saw it, you know, how that affected Ferrex once the Empire
Right.
showed up. So it's a interesting push and pull between technically Two Boots is right, because that's protocol. We need to kind of call the Empire,
but we have our own force and we don't want to be like invaded.
yeah. And
Right.
it's one of those things that we're learning right here in the United States. Just because it's legal doesn't mean it's right.
Right.
Yep.
And that's, I think,
Absolutely.
the Brander dilemma. It's just like he needs to do what's right in spite of what he's supposed to do. So it'll be an interesting dilemma to see how his development continues as he becomes a foil, or maybe not, for Maul. So
Right.
any closing thoughts from anybody, you know, from these two episodes before we kind of get a little more spicy and go into some irresponsible or responsible speculation?
I love Spybot.
Spybot is great.
Spybot is
Spybot
great.
is so good. I love that
It's
he's
so
just like
good.
this cat.
Like, it's one of those things where, you know, it's kind of the opposite of Two Boots. Like, he doesn't need to say a lot to like get his
Right.
point across. It's great. It's a chaos agent here
Yeah.
everywhere he shows up. So it's David Collins from Skywalker Sound just doing another
And
banger.
he kind of just
banger of
sounds like a
job.
Decepticon. And,
Right.
Right.
From
And then the
Transformers
look is
2.
like-
yeah.
And then the design is like Cat Bane's hat. So I feel like he's a combination of, you know, if Cat Bane would have been turned into a Decepticon, that's what
Right.
Spybot is. And I'm all for it.
He's
Completely
a
all for
one-eyed
it.
cat.
That can speak. Imagine
Right.
imagine if
Yep.
a one-eyed cat could actually speak. Holy crap.
Right.
But let's descend into madness a little bit. You know, we have a
Yes.
week to wait until the next two episodes of Maul Shadow Lords, episodes 3 and 4. But you know, until then, as always, good to have fun, not take anything seriously, and be open-hearted and open-minded to what the show will actually give us. But until then, it's always fun to see, what we think might happen based on what we've seen has already happened. So, Crystal, let's start with you. We end the second episode with Devon setting herself free and jumping out of the prison that she made for herself in many ways. So,
Right.
where do you think this is going?
I think this is where we're going to see her go back to her Jedi master and where he's going to kind of like talk her out of this MAUL that got into her mind. But I honestly, I don't know. I haven't even thought about what's next. I feel like I'm really just here for the ride. I guess the only thing that I'm really hoping for is like a dark side Devon, or like a transition to the dark side, just because I would really love to see that told in Star Wars. But as far as like what the next two episodes hold, I'm here for the ride. I'd love to hear what you guys think.
Yeah.
I can't. I have my lips.
Oh,
My lips are
right.
My lips are sealed.
I know that you can't, Goose. Yeah. So I actually, we both got access to the screeners, and in Puerto Rico we do like Holy Week is a holiday. So I just went to the beach with my family, and I was like, I'm not gonna make myself just sit down in a closed room and watch it. Aside from the fact that because we were gonna do the coverage, I was actually really excited just to like have fresh eyes with each premiere and be able to talk with all of our guests, as somebody who doesn't know where we're going. I mean, Goose is not going to be able to talk about speculation until
burdened with knowledge.
8 because nobody got, episode 9 and 10. So, so the finale is still completely secret, which I'm really excited about. Because we don't even know the title of the last episode, it's just called finale.
Right.
So, yeah. So I'm really excited to, find out with everybody week to week. So far, it's been great. We know for sure that the other titles are ominous. Like episode 3 is Whispers in the Unknown, and 4 is Pride and Vengeance. So I love that they're leaning into the dark. So I would love for them to keep that pace up and not shy away from just being scary. I mean, Star Wars, it's good for it to be scary. Like this MAUL specifically is really sinister. And, the music accompanying him. And sometimes when you just see kind of like the cloak and maybe his boots. And sometimes when he's upset, like cringing his hands, like my plan isn't working. And so I love the subtlety. I love like what you were saying, Crystal. We've always been huge fans here about show, don't tell. You don't need to narrate everything to me. Just, let me figure it out by myself. Let me sit after the episode is done and kind of dig through what else the show was trying to tell me, not just what's like face value, which I think the show is getting really good at doing. I think this is a show that's going to be really great. Like once it's all over, do a rewatch of the whole thing all over again and see how you feel about it from beginning to end. So I'm just kind of looking forward to what's coming next. Like you said, I'm really excited about maybe watching Devon go dark side. Maybe even Brandon himself, like a cop who realizes that, not necessarily dark side, but that realizes that the Empire is not at all what it seems, because he already knows that it isn't. Yeah. But I don't think he's gone far enough to say they're the bad guys, So because he's still like, the Syndicate is the bad guys, but wait, what if I'm wrong? So I don't know. I'm kind of really looking forward to maybe kind of see shifts in allegiances and how the Jedi Splinter Master is going to react to maybe like as his apprentice starts to become more dark than light, and how he's going to react to that. Right. So, and we could already see in the juxtaposition that MAUL is way more powerful than he is, even though that's not necessarily true, because it's a lot easier to break something than to fix it. So, because when MAUL goes like that and he just breaks it, but it's a lot harder to put it back together. So we don't exactly know the levels of power. So I'm here to enjoy the ride. I'm having so much fun with it already. Hosbando was the one that got me into watching the Clone Wars, because I wasn't a huge fan of the animation. And at this point, it's so gorgeous. So as we were watching it together, we're like, oh my God, this is This
Yeah.
is amazing. This is like
We've
a
come a
whole
long way from the
another
Clone
level.
Wars movie.
Yeah, right.
It's
Oh my God.
crazy how much it has improved and how engaging it is, and how you were saying, Crystal, like the choreographed fights, and I think you said it too, Goose. Like the choreography going on with all the moving parts, it's so gorgeous. Aside from everything that's happening narratively and musically and everything else, I think so far the show is hitting on all cylinders,
Mhm.
and I'm just here for the ride. So
Right.
I
Yeah.
will
think
interrupt
there's
to.
Go, please.
Oh, no.
No, 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 no.
You
Go
go
ahead.
before.
Go. Keep going.
I will interrupt for unscheduled, irresponsible speculation. You know, and this doesn't ruin anything from the show. And as we said, I haven't seen the last 2 episodes, so this could all
we
be
don't know how
bumped.
it ends. Yeah.
But and I'm glad that actually like you brought it up before I did, Crystal, because as I was kind of watching these 2 episodes and only these 2 episodes, one of the things that I was thinking about Maul's journey, especially in thinking about other Star Wars movies and shows that we have seen, and then seeing that relationship that's being developed with Devon, is like, what does a relationship with Maul look like? You know, it's especially with, something that, I mean, not maybe won't be, but something that could be like a romantic relationship. We know that we saw and were robbed, right, in The Last Jedi, that we saw Kylo extend his hand to Rey, and that there was a romance there that could have happened. Rise of Skywalker ruined it. Maybe
Yep.
Rey towards the dark or Kylo towards the light, but we saw that happen there. The Acolyte famously, right? We have the hero
Right.
of the show succumb to the dark side,
I know. So good.
bleed her Kyber crystal, and leave with her Sith master. Or we don't know what he is. Maybe he was going to be the first Knight of Ren, but then we were robbed of seeing how that show
Plays
continues,
out.
right?
Right.
So here I am thinking, it's just like, wait, what do we know about Maul after Clone Wars? And really, the only thing we know pre-Rebels is that he's lost in Malachor, and he has been there for years. And the back of my mind, I just started thinking, like, what if Devon and Maul just fell in love and we're trying to do dark side stuff together, and we're trying to find the weapon in Malachor, and then somehow she didn't make it, and that's why he just stayed in Malachor and never never left, because he our angry boy Maul was just had a broken Sith heart in Malachor, and just was mourning Devon, and just stayed there and had his little altar for her there with the dark saber and everything. But that was kind of my hot take. I'm like, maybe the journey for Devon and Maul ends in Malachor at some point. Maybe in season 2, maybe in season 3 that's unannounced. But that was my wildly irresponsible speculation here. So I don't know. Am I off base, Crystal, as a fan
No.
of Talon here?
Well, this is the thing, is like, we know where Maul ends up in Rebels, a broken
Yeah.
man, like,
Right.
crazy looking for an apprentice. So I'm like, dude, something's gonna happen to Devon.
Yeah.
People are gonna die.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't know. Hopefully we don't see that happen to Devon. But maybe you're right. Maybe it does turn into like a romantic relationship. I also would love to see Maul as like a father figure to Devon. I don't know. I just would love to see Maul build a relationship with someone. He was obviously able to with Savage, his brother. And so I would love to see him like form an attachment to Devon, whether that is like romantic or fatherly or whatever it is, and then see it being ripped away from him. So something they did say at the premiere is that Maul goes through it. That's also why I'm kind of like,
so
I
we
don't
know there's gonna be tragedy.
really know. They said that like he is going to be put through the ringer, that they're really testing him, and so
Interesting.
that's why I'm like, I really don't know what to expect. Like, what do you guys mean if you're gonna play him through the ringer?
Yeah, like how much more tragedy can he take? Like, so
he's
many
already
things
been
have
cut in
happened to him
half. He
already.
lost his brother.
Right.
Like, oh my god.
Right. His mother, like, he's
Betrayed
been
by his
casted
master
away.
and abandoned.
Right.
I mean,
I guess we're just gonna have to watch and
Right. What
find
more
out.
can you do to him besides
and
kill
I think
Devon?
well, I mean, and it could be like regardless of whatever relationship he establishes with Devon, because we know there's going to be a relationship established, whatever character that takes. maybe it's not that something happened to her. Maybe it's that she just leaves him. She decides to become a Sith.
Love
Or she
that.
Take
decides
power
to-
for
though.
herself and just
Right. I
betrays
love-
him.
And then she just leaves him. So that would be, I think, even more tragic than something like happening to her. It's like that she actively chooses to leave him.
Oh my
So-
god, that'd be the worst thing to happen to him, honestly.
Right. Like
And his
after
like
he like
abandonment
invests
issues.
into after he invests like time into it and maybe develops emotions regardless of its brother sister emotions, father daughter relations, or if it's a romantic relationship that happens, but that he builds a relationship and then that cracks some of his walls and then that person abandons him.
Yeah. And then she uses him.
Oh my god.
Wow.
And then we get all crazy him later on.
I
Yeah.
don't think he's gonna be able to handle that if it happens.
Right.
Oh.
Lucasfilm, hire us. Like, put us in the writer's room.
Yeah, I'll shut this podcast down if you hire me. Yeah, like
Right.
please, immediately. I'll fly.
Right,
I'll
we're
fly
the- we're
right
the
now to
think
San
tank.
Francisco.
Right.
That's good. That's
That's
irresponsible
a great
enough.
one.
That's
Yeah, I
irresponsible.
love that.
Yeah, so I think
Look
we
at us.
have a lot to look
Mhm.
forward to. And if any of this is right, I'm going to be so excited because we're always wrong about our speculation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
but
totally.
usually
Yeah.
we're happy to
We're
be
somewhere
wrong
near.
because
We're somewhere near.
what they do is
Yeah.
better than what we can cook up. So, but this
Right.
one's good. This one's good.
That is a good one. This is my favorite part of doing these things. It's just like
Yeah.
Speculate
This is
responsibly.
speculation.
So responsibly.
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
are the conversations I want to have. Like, how crazy, how far off the deep end are we going to go with this? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then if we're wrong, we're
only get
wrong.
crazier.
And no hard feelings.
right, right,
Yeah.
True,
exactly.
True. But with that, I think, and we can obviously keep going. There's so much to dissect about this show that's so far been incredible, and we've only just started. But
Yeah.
thank you so much, Crystal, for joining us. But before we sign off, and Nani says everything that she says to sign us
Wrap
off, why
up.
don't you tell us a little bit about what you have going on, where people can find you, so that people can just continue to listen to all the lovely things you have to say.
Yeah, so I make Star Wars and makeup content on YouTube. I also post on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. I'm never leaving the hell site of Twitter. So you can find me on all of those platforms under Crystal Kyber. I also have a fandom-based clothing brand called Bad Feeling, because I got a bad feeling about this, but it's getbadfeeling.com, and this is one of our shirts. It's a Darth Dare shirt. And
Love
yeah,
it.
that's where you can find me.
That's great. And we, as usual, will leave the links down in the description below to make it easier to find you. Please follow Crystal, good friend of the channel, amazing person, and great content out there. So if you like what we do, you like what you've heard here, please make sure to follow her immediately.
Thank
But with
you.
that-
Thank you so much.
With that, thank you, Crystal. And, unfortunately, time to wrap it up.
Right.
Well, thank you so much, Crystal, for coming along and joining us. It's such a different tone of, talking about Skeleton Crew, which was like so much of the Goonies. And then now we're just like in kind of the horror era of Star Wars. So, and we're all here for it. Thank you so much. You've been amazing. To everybody listening and watching, we are Triad of the Force. Remember to like, subscribe, leave a comment. Let us know what you're feeling about Maul Shadow Lord so far. We're only in the first 2 episodes. We're going to keep talking about the show per episode until we get to the end. So let us know what you think so far. Let us know if you agree with our crazy speculations.
Mhm.
Let us know what other crazy theories you have as well. And until next time, may the Force be with you.